Welcome to all Caribbean entrepreneurs. If you've been ready and waiting to take your business digital and get paid online while you sip something strong on the beach, this podcast is for you. We'll hear from the Caribbean's finest entrepreneurs on topics like e-commerce, business development, brand building, social media, their wins and failures. This is the only place in the region helping you navigate the digital age from the Caribbean's perspective. This is Digipreneur FM. And now, let's give it up for the Digiboss himself, Mr. Keron Rose.
Thank you to everybody tuning in to another episode of the Digipreneur FM podcast. And as usual, it is your boy, Mr. Rose. DJ, you know what to do. You've been here for a long time. You gotta fade us all the way out because we gotta talk to the people. It is August 20th, 2024, and this is episode number 172. How are you lovely ladies and gentlemen doing in the Digipreneur family all across the world? We got to give some shout outs to the people all over the world that are tuning in. Trinidad and Tobago, what's going on? Thank you for tuning in. The U.S., we know we got our peoples out in the States. Thank you for tuning in. Canada, 416-905, stand all the way up. Thank you for tuning in. Jamaica, I need some jerk chicken. Oh, Jesus, Christmas, I need some jerk. I need jerk anything. I jerk pork, I jerk fish, I jerk shrimp. I'll take anything jerk right about now. St. Vincent, India, Bahamas, Tunisia. My good. Listen, every time I look through the podcast stats, and every single month I'm seeing, some different countries that are tuning in that I've never seen before. I'm always amazed, wow, how did we start getting some listeners in some of these other countries? So shout out to Tunisia. Cayman's in the building. Japan is in the building. The UK, Barbados, Antigua and Barbuda, Switzerland, France, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, Morocco, Montserrat, and the Netherlands. Thank you. Those are all of the countries that have tuned into the podcast this month. Thank you for everybody around the world that continues to support the podcast, and always a pleasure to be of service. And like I said, it's always amazing when you can speak from a particular perspective. I try to tell people, local focus, global reach. People from around the world are tuning in to see how other people in the world in different regions are solving their problems, right? Just like how we take information from people that live in other countries and see how best we could apply it to what we're doing in the Caribbean region. Other people from around the world are doing the exact same thing. So get your content out there. Really try to focus on that local focus, because what happens is a lot of creators or business content creators, they try to make their content for other regions, right? And it comes off as very bland, vanilla, because at the end of the day, other countries have their own experts, and you're trying to appeal to them, right? If you just focus on, talking about the issues and things that are happening within your space, people are going to listen because they want that context from somewhere else so that they can take what they can and bring it back to their own home regions, right? So again, I'm always happy to see where people are coming in from across the world. Now, if you've noticed, and I've said this a couple of times this year, I've gone through phases where, man, we have been ultra consistent inside of the Digipreneur FM podcast. And then we've had some spurts where we've kind of gone ghost for a little bit. Listen, we're going to be rectifying this. I know I say it all the time, but you guys get me on every possible platform, TV, radio, every single week, articles, blogs, every single week. And the podcast, because the podcast is my baby, I never want to show up anything less than 100%. So if I'm not feeling it, I don't jump in because I never want to half-ass it because I know how I want the podcast to come across. I know the vibes I want to put into it. So when I'm not there, like I'll drag myself to TV, I'll drag myself to radio, I'll push through on some other things, but like my podcast, I just don't compromise. So if I'm busy, all right, no problem. I still have content coming out in every other medium. If I'm just not in that vibe, I don't push myself because I know when I come, we come to shut things down. This episode, man, the last episode, we spoke about how to migrate to Thailand from the Caribbean, right? And this month has been Thailand prep, has just been getting everything together. If you've been following me on social media, I've really been keeping you up to date on, just everything that I've been going through. So, last week I finally sold my car, got that out the way, had to take, a day and a half to get the transfer done, to transfer to the seller. Just yesterday, I got a lot of my equipment in my office sold. So my Rodecaster that I use to produce my podcast and do all of my audio work for, whether it be conferences, virtual workshops, or recording courses, or just even recording video content. Everything goes to the Rodecaster, so I got that sold. My lighting system, my iMac. What else went yesterday? Oh my God, my audio engine HD4s. Listen, I don't think people realize the audio engines that I have. They're like they're studio grade sound equipment systems that people use in professional studios, right? Man, it took me almost a month to pick the sound system I wanted in my studio, right? And I love them. I love them bad. Like I was like, man, I have to bring them. But I'm like, man, I also just need to be mindful of, I don't know what, whilst I've been, doing as good of a job as I can from here, trying to pick out condos, I won't ultimately know until I land there and I physically get to see the different spaces and I know what space I'm working with. And the last thing I want is to, bring all these things down and then I don't have a space or I can't use them. And I'm sure, my speakers, I'm sure I could have, figured that out because they're versatile in terms of where they can go. But I'm like, you know what, man? Just like when I moved to Trinidad and I sold everything and it was kind of a fresh start, this next leg of the journey is same thing, man. Same thing, Come with the bare minimum and kind of a fresh start again and just figure things out as you go along, right? And everybody that has reached out to me and purchased equipment that I posted is going to enjoy, everything, because everything that I have is some really good stuff, right? So in this episode, I wanted to dive in a bit more as to, why I have finally decided to leave Trinidad, because as much as the question of why Thailand has been hot on everybody's mind, the second question that I've been asked quite a bit is, why have you decided to leave Trinidad? And it's really because I think the conversation has kind of blown wide open. So at this point, I've gotten a couple hundred emails, DMs, phone calls about this topic. And I think people are really assessing their own journeys right now, and they really have been thinking about making that big change. And not just in Trinidad, but from the Caribbean as well. And not just in the Caribbean, like, people from Canada, the US, have all reached out to me and have been thinking about making that big change. So I think there's a big conversation where people are feeling like they need to make that change. And when you see somebody who is in your community and they're making that big change, and they're deciding to go to a whole different part of the world, people are curious. People want to know why. People want to know, your train of thought and your thinking, because it's been on their heart and it's been on their mind making that big change as well. And this has been kind of like maybe it's that universal, sign for them that, hey, I've been thinking about it, or I've been feeling to make that change. And here's somebody, that's in the community that is making that change as well. So the two questions of, well, why Thailand? Why Thailand in particular? But, why are you leaving Trinidad? What's going on? Where's your mind at when it comes to leaving Trinidad, right? Because it's a twofold question. Why did you decide on Thailand? What's going on over there? Is Thailand a place that I should be thinking about? And also, Trinidad and Tobago is the second country you have lived in. Why have you decided to leave Trinidad? And I said in my last episode that I would dive into it a bit more. And so here we go, Let's dive into, I have some loose notes, some very loose notes, more like just some key reasons, and I'll kind of just go through it, as we go through the podcast. It's, kind of one of those episodes. So the first reason why, and this is the most important reason why I've decided to leave Trinidad and Tobago. Reason number one is, and this is by far the most important issue, the foreign exchange problem. The Forex problem is out of control, and it is only getting worse, and it's gonna continue to get worse next year. And the foreign exchange problem here, the foreign exchange shortage, means that the allocation that regular citizens get is next to nothing. And last week we seen RBC limit their credit cards to $5,000 US for the entire month. And there are many people that I hold in high regard that, offline in conversations are like, yo, with how things are going, they may need to cut that in half. And our ministry, our Minister of Finance has spoken at length about how credit cards are one of the key problems. Whether he's right or wrong doesn't matter, right? Because people are going to debate this, till the cows come home. Whether he is, lying or not lying, the fact of the matter that he keeps on harping that a large part of the foreign exchange problem is due to credit card usage and people shopping online and using their credit cards. That's one of the biggest reasons why we're losing foreign exchange. The fact that he keeps on harping on that lets you know that next year they may cut that in half and you might only get access to $2,000 US a month on your credit cards. And many people who are in the know feel that is where things are heading, because there is going to be no relief in terms of a massive injection of foreign exchange coming into the country to bring us back to where things were 10 years ago, right? It's progressively gotten worse every single year since I've come to Trinidad in the last 10 years. So we're going to get to a point where next year you're only really going to you may have only $2,000 US a month to use. And what could you do with that on your credit card? We need that. We need the U.S. allocation to build our business. We need the U.S. allocation to do really anything. We've seen many situations where people are trying to travel, or I've seen a situation where a UE professor was trying to send or trying to pay for an application for their child to go to university in the States, and the bank wouldn't even give them $80 for the wire transfer. They said, we don't have it. We've seen many situations where people have migrated and sold their house, sold their assets, sold their cars, and they have $1 million in the bank, and the bank is like, well, yeah, we can only wire $1,000 at a time, so it's going to take us a couple of years to wire your money to your new bank account in the U.S. or Canada or the UK, wherever you've migrated to. We're at a point. We're at a point right now. We're trying to build a business. If your business needs U.S. dollars to grow, you're handicapped. And because it's only going to get worse, I can't afford that. Right? This is the reason why over the years where I have been finding all of these different ways to move money out of Trinidad. This is why I've been trying to open up U.S. bank accounts and focus on working with entities outside of Trinidad and Tobago. That way, whenever they pay me, it's going into accounts outside of Trinidad. That way I can survive and do my thing. But just being in Trinidad is handicapping you. As I said before, being Trini is a flex, but living in Trinidad is a handicap. And yes, there are people who are navigating these scenarios very well, but that's not everybody. We're all in the same storm, but we are sailing in that storm in very different ships. And some people can weather the storms a lot better than others. And so everybody has to figure out their own situations. But the foreign exchange problem is the number one reason why I've decided that, you know what, I need to remove myself from the Trinidad systems. That way, if I am going to grow as an entity, it's going to have to be outside of Trinidad. I can still serve the Caribbean, right? Because right now my business serves the Caribbean. Everything I do is digital. And this has been this way since the pandemic, where I've transitioned my business to being a 100% digital business. So, this didn't happen overnight. I have been preparing my business for some time, for some years now, to be a digital business. So now it's afforded me the ability to work from anywhere. I don't have to work from home. I work from anywhere. And I told you before that those are two different mindsets. Working from home and working from anywhere requires you to have different skill sets, because one, if you're working from home, you could just be working for a company right here in Trinidad that allows you to work from home, right? But working from anywhere requires you to have a different skill set, work for companies outside of Trinidad, or maybe your skill sets allow you to have a business or freelance, and you're working with people from around the world, so it gives you more flexibility, all right? And I've been working on this for some years now. So when I made that transition, deciding to close Droid Island, it was mainly because Droid Island still had some physical elements to it, and I wanted to be a 100% digital business. So Digipreneur Company has allowed me to do that. And now that, we have the foreign exchange problems, I've circumvented it as much as I could, but ultimately it gets to a point where I'm like, I spend so much energy trying to navigate this problem when I could be spending that energy figuring out how to grow and build my business and thrive it. So I've made that decision to, make this change, right? And that's been the number one reason, because I feel like everything else I could circumvent to an extent. But this has been the number one challenge. This is the number one reason why I've decided, it's time. The second reason I've decided to leave Trinidad The second reason is the crime. It's gotten to a point where it's out of control. Nobody has a handle on it. The police don't have a handle on it. The Minister of National Security doesn't give me any hope that he has any clue in terms of what's going on, whether you like it or not. I'm telling you how I feel, right? The Minister of National Security doesn't inspire me. Doesn't inspire me that he has any clue what's going on. Doesn't inspire me that he has a handle. Doesn't inspire me that any change is going to happen. And the only change that is going to happen is that it will continue to spiral out of control. But when every single day, when you're averaging 3 murders a day, 2 to 3 murders a day, when the entire country has become a hotspot, when things are happening regardless of time, doesn't matter, like you can't be vigilant anymore. And for those who continue to say things like you just have to be vigilant, no, it's not about you can't be vigilant anymore. I live in St. Augustine, and just Thursday past, we had a armed robbery in the gas station that I go to, 11 o'clock in the morning, and it turned out to a shootout in the middle of the road, in the middle of the main road. They robbed the gas station Unipet, and police were notified and were able to intercept, and there was a shootout in the main road. You can't be vigilant when it's happening anywhere, anytime, any day. You could just be pumping gas. Look, last month there was a shooting at 7 o'clock at St. Christopher gas station, one of our busiest gas stations in the country. And there was a shooting 7 o'clock in the evening. They murdered a guy pumping gas. 7 o'clock, rush hour time. It's busy, and that's one of our busiest gas stations. How could you be vigilant? You're just going about your normal day, and things are happening. Home invasions are up. Robberies are up. All-round crime is up. Look, even our sister island, Tobago, is experiencing crime that they have unprecedented crime. Right? And crime is affecting everybody. The Prime Minister himself has said the money that is being invested into national security is a waste. And I agree with him. Right? People got upset when he said that, but I agree with what he is saying. I agree with the premise of what he is saying is that, that money that we are spending in national security could best be spent elsewhere. All right? We could have better everything else if we could reduce the crime. What again, that's a loaded statement. I agree to an extent that yes, the money that is being dumped into Ministry of National Security could better be spent elsewhere, but you guys haven't cracked the code in figuring out crime, so here we are. All right? And crime is affecting everybody. Let me give an example. I was supposed to do some work in Tobago, and because of Tobago's unprecedented crime, money they have allocated into social programs and business programs, the money that was already allocated, a lot of it has now had to be pulled back to go now and redirect those funds into national security. So one of the events that I was going to do in September in Tobago got pulled back, and those funds are being redirected to where? What all of a sudden needs the utmost attention? The uprising in crime in Tobago. So it's impacting everybody, all right? People are losing out on whether it be social programs, people are losing out on opportunities, on money, simply because money has to go towards quelling crime. And because that event has now been pulled back, it has now allowed me to move to Thailand earlier than anticipated, because the only reason I was going to leave at the end of September was because I had a 3D event to do in Tobago that had to get pulled back. And now that's just freed me up to leave even earlier. So I'm going to be leaving Trinidad even earlier than I had anticipated. All right? So crime is impacting everything. And it gets to a point, man, where whenever I hear people say crime is everywhere, You have never lived in a civil society, and it shows because you can say things like crime is everywhere. Yeah, crime is everywhere, but crime is not happening to the level that it's happening in Trinidad. Trinidad has hit the 11th spot on the crime index for 2024. Crime is not everywhere to the level of Trinidad. There's only 10 more countries that have a higher crime index rating than Trinidad and Tobago. Think about that. Think about that for 1 second. And I also showed people on my social media, look, there's crime in Toronto. Yeah, I know crime in Toronto. I'm from Toronto. Yeah, we have crime. But not to the level of this. We could still walk around the neighborhood without a worry. Toronto, year to date, Toronto, a city of, let me pull up the stats for you. Let me pull up the population. Toronto population 2024. Toronto's population right now has about 2.8 million people. All right, Toronto alone has 2.8 million people. And we have recorded 54 murders year to date. 54. And that's the highest it's been in over a decade. 54 murders. And that's the highest it's been in a decade. With a population of 2.8 million people. Trinidad has 1.4 million people. We have just recorded, I believe it was 408 murders. Let me just do that quick. Look at that. As of 4:30 this morning, we are currently at 409 murders. We're in August. 409 murders. We could very well hit 700. And that would be the highest that we've ever recorded in Trinidad's history. We're already at 409. So, going to a place like Medellin, you guys know I was at Medellin, Colombia, where you're walking around and any time of the day, 3 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock, 10 o'clock, midnight, 1 a.m., and you're doing that with a comfort of safety. You're not looking over your shoulder. The environment doesn't even feel like, there's any worry in the air. Yes, Medellin has its rough spots. Everywhere in the world has its rough spots. But you're still walking with a level of comfort and safety. You don't do that in Trinidad. Regardless if it's morning, noon, or evening. So the crime situation is really impacting everything, and it also changes your daily habits. So even the people who are not fearful of crime, like I'm not fearful. I don't live in fear. I'm not paranoid. But you've adjusted your habits to account for crime. So one of my good friends, again, doesn't worry about crime, continues on his normal day. But he's like, when I think about it, there are little things that I do that I've never done before. So he's like, now I don't just pull into my driveway at night. He's like, after 9 o'clock, I'll usually pull aside, turn off my lights, pull aside 2 houses away from my house. And I just kind of sit in the car for a couple of minutes just to look around. Make sure that I don't see anything weird. Make sure I don't see anybody in cars kind of just marking the house. Give it a 2-3 minutes. Once I feel like, okay, no one's really marking the house because he has to open the gate. Then he drives up to the gate, comes out of his car. Before he opens the gate, looks both ways. Make sure nobody's just running out the bushes to come and rush him by the gate because we know that's what happens. Opens the gate, then drives his car in and locks up and goes, right? Again, he says he's not fearful, but there are little things that he does because he knows the times that we are in. So even when you're not living in fear, it's changed your daily habits. And there are things that you are focusing on that you've never really had to focus on. So think about it for yourself. What are those things that you've never really done before? Again, you don't have to live in fear, but what are those things that you've never really done before that you now, when you sit down and you reflect on it, what are those things that you now have integrated into your daily habits that you are doing to be cautious? Right? For me, I just don't go out as much. I just don't, and it's not because I don't want to. I want to. When I was in Colombia, man, me and my brother, we were outside. We enjoyed ourselves, right? And anytime you see me travel, you see I'm outside enjoying myself. I enjoy myself, and I miss that. But when I come to Trinidad, when I'm back in Trinidad, I don't have the zeal to be outside. I don't have the zeal to go out. I don't have the zeal to party. I don't have the zeal to lime. I don't have the zeal to go hit. I don't have the zeal. I want to. But when I'm here, I don't have the zeal. And I miss that, right? I don't care to have to party. I don't care to hit a fete. I don't care to do a lot of these things. And those are some things that I just naturally miss doing. But because of the environment that we are in, I'm like, man, it's not even worth it. Like, it's not even on my mind. Let me just keep in my house and pick up a book and so I can see another day. You know, I don't have the zeal to go out and do. I don't have the zeal. I just don't care to do all that. All right. So there are things that I'm not doing because of the environment that I'm in, and I just don't have the zeal to go and do it. But the minute I leave, all of a sudden, yeah, I'm outside. You know, so things like that are impacting me, and I want to tap into those parts. And those are not everyday things. Those are not even weekly things. Those might be, you know, once in a blue moon. But it doesn't matter. I want to do it when I want to do it. And I just don't have that zeal when I'm here. So the crime is impacting. It's impacting business. It's impacting my vibes. It's impacting, you know, my wild behavior that I want to tap into from time to time, you know. It's impacting all those things. So that's the second reason why I've decided to, you know, all right, man, let me bounce out of Trinidad. Third reason is alignment. At 37, I've realized that, and this is in conversations I'm having with people who are a lot older than me, in their 60s, some in their 70s, people younger than me, people my age. This is just some realizations that, you know, I've come to in all the conversations I've been having. And that is that alignment is a massive, massive, massive thing. Alignment in everything you do. From the work you do, from the people you hang around, to the content you consume, the books you read, everything. Alignment in everything. But you know one aspect that people don't think about enough is alignment in the countries that you live. The people that I have conversations with who have lived in multiple countries are the people that have been talking about alignment in the countries that you live. Does the country you live in align with your values? Does it align with your goals? Does it align with what you want out of life? Because all countries are not equal. When you are living in countries like the US, you are born and you're living in environments that have privileges that other countries don't have. And you don't have to stay and live in one country. And most people feel like I was born in this one place, I have to live here. And I can only vacation in other countries. Some people aren't even vacationing. Some people haven't even left their home city. Some people haven't left their home country. Some people haven't left their region. So the people that have lived in multiple countries are the ones that have been talking about, does the environment, does the country you live in align with what you want out of life? And, now that Trinidad is my second country, when I have these conversations and it makes me think, and I'm like, yo, when I moved to Trinidad, it was because I was at a point in my life where I felt like nothing aligned, and I was the problem. I was messing up a lot, and a lot of that was true. I was making some terrible decisions, but a lot of it was because of the environment that I was in, and I felt like I needed a change of environment. And you know what? 10 years later, I can say it was the best decision I ever made. And anybody who knows me from growing up in Canada up until I was 28, my family, everybody looks at me and says, it was the best thing you ever did. Because who you are today is, it's unrecognizable to who you were 10 years ago. Unrecognizable. And that was because I came to an environment that allowed me to blossom and find myself and build the person that I am in today. And just that change of environment allowed me to do that. The change of environment allowed me to take everything that I have learned and all of my interests and, the things that I enjoy doing, and allowed me to figure myself out and allowed me to be what I am today. And now, as I approach my 38th birthday in December, the conversation of alignment is hot on my heart. It's heavy on my heart. And Trinidad and Tobago no longer aligns with what I want in my life. And that's okay, because Trinidad could be everything it needs for somebody else. But it's no longer aligning for me. It doesn't align with, the values that I have. It doesn't align with the environment I see myself spending the next 5 years in, 10 years in. It doesn't align. And in my search for figuring out where next to move, I've really been looking at, does the next country have what I need right now and for the foreseeable future? Do I see myself retiring in Thailand? Right now, I'm going to say no, because I haven't lived there, right? I've learned enough that for the next 5 years, and this is why I decided to do the 5-year visa, I've learned enough about Thailand and the environs and the neighboring countries that I'm like, yo, I could live in Thailand for 5 years, and I can base myself there, and it's easy for me to base myself there because I have access to Asia. I have access to all the neighboring countries at very little cost. So it's not just Thailand. Thailand's the base, but I have access to China. I have access to Singapore. I have access to Indonesia, to Myanmar, to Vietnam, to Laos. A trip over to Greece is cheap. I have greater access to other countries, so I know that even though I'm going to be based in Thailand, I'm going to be traveling a lot more than I ever have in my entire life because it's accessible. And so the Thailand environment is giving me everything I need. There is a thriving expat community. There's an amazing business community. There's an amazing tech community. There's the culture. There's nature. There's the jungles. There's the wildlife. There's all of the things that I need for the next leg of my journey that I know is going to give me the tools and the environment for me to build and create and explore this next version of myself that I'm going to I'm going to tap into, and it's going to give me everything I need, the tools and the environment I need to really thrive. And all I keep thinking to myself is, man, if I was able to do that in a developing country or a developing region like the Caribbean, what do I look like when I'm given the things I need in a more developed region? What does Keron Rose look like? What does the Digipreneur brand look like? What do all of these things look like when I'm given the environment to learn more and to be poured back into? Because for the last 10 years, I have been pouring back into the Caribbean. I've been taking everything that I have, learned and soaked up in Canada and the US, and I've brought that to the Caribbean, not just Trinidad, but I've brought that to the Caribbean. And I've been pouring into the Caribbean. And I haven't been being poured back into. Yes, there's been people in my life who we have built some good relationships with, and, we have shared, and, I've poured into them, they have poured into me. But Canada and the US has given me so much that I've been able to take everything and poured it back into the Caribbean. And I've been depleting myself. And whilst I'm not burnt out, if you know me, you know I'm an absolute animal and I'm a beast. And I'm not burnt out. I've never felt burnt out because I've just been figuring myself out how to do what I do at a high level, when to take my breaks, how to rejuvenate myself to continue to keep doing what I'm doing. And I think a lot of these years, I think a key part of why I haven't been burnt out is because I've just been figuring things out. And when you're experimenting, you're toying and you're toying with things, it's also fueling you in the process. But now I need to learn because I feel like I'm behind. I feel like I am behind. I feel like the world is going at a million miles an hour, and I need to be in the middle of it. I need to be in the thick of the action so I can start to soak up everything that is happening in the world again in a more progressive environment. That way, think about it. I came to the Caribbean with 28 years of just, information and whatever. And I've just been dumping that into the region. So now when I go to Asia, because nothing changes for me, the work I do is still in the Caribbean region. But when I go over there and now I'm able to be in the middle of the action, be amongst a thriving business community, a thriving expat community from minds and people from all over the world who have decided to call Thailand home. When I can soak in all of that and now pour back into the region, it's going to help the region, it's going to help me, and I'm going to continue to grow, and the region's going to continue to grow. It's going to help me just be a better contributor to the region. And the reality is that the people that that are the most innovative people in the Caribbean, the majority of them don't live in the Caribbean full time. Many of them don't live in the Caribbean full time. They live in other parts of the world for spurts or for half the year, and then they come back to the region, and again, they continuously keep exposed in what's happening in other markets. That way they can serve the region better. Nobody is abandoning the region, but they are soaking up the information and they are building it back. They're pouring back into the region. And that's for the people who, again, the people who you hold as the most innovative minds in the region, like I said, they spend significant time outside of the region to keep abreast and to be in the middle of what is happening in the world. That way they can bring it back to the region. So finding alignment in the place and the environment that you live is critical. And that is something that, like I said, in the conversations I've been having, I've really been learning and soaking it up. And I think I've been, doing it subconsciously, but now that I've been made aware of it, I'm like, okay, I understand. And I think this has become a key driving force into why I'm leaving Trinidad. So the first two were, kind of more on the negative side as to, the negative side of Trinidad. But now that we're talking more about the personal development and finding that alignment, learning more about myself and realizing that Trinidad right now in its current iteration of the country no longer aligns with my own values and my own goals and the environment that I want to be in is part of my personal development, right? And that's not to say Trinidad can't change in 5-10 years and all of a sudden I'm like, man, I need to get back home. I need to get back to my birth country, right? So yeah, alignment's a big thing. Next up is, well, I already touched on it, just finding that fulfilling environment for business and my creativity. I had that as a reason, but I tied it into alignment, so I could skip that. Moving forward is being able to lean into digital entrepreneurship and being a digital nomad. So I've been, like I said, since 2020, I've really focused on being more of a digital business. And I've told you there's a difference between working from home and working from anywhere. So when I transitioned from, having that brick and mortar store, having physical products and being a 100% digital business, at the beginning, I really only focused on just being able to work from home. So I built my studio, I built everything, and my goal was to work from home. And then as I started to travel more over the last 2 years and working, going to different conferences, speaking, doing workshops, and getting booked in other countries, over the last 2 years, I realized that I needed to focus on, being able to work from anywhere. And like I said, that's a very different skill set, it's a very different mindset. So I've really been focusing on working from anywhere. And this year, I knew that last year that I would be leaving Trinidad by the end of 2024. I knew that from last year. I just never knew where I was going to go or when I was going to go, but I knew it was going to happen before the year was done. And I knew that I wanted to really lean into my Digipreneur brand. Because it's not just a brand. Digipreneur, digital entrepreneur is what Digipreneur stands for. Digital entrepreneurship is a lifestyle. It is a lifestyle. It is a credo. It is a motto. It is something that you legitimately live by. When you say to yourself, I am a digital entrepreneur, what does that mean to you? For me, it embodies freedom. It embodies the 3 freedoms: location freedom, time freedom, and financial freedom. And financial freedom doesn't need to be that you are wealthy. Financial freedom can also be, are you executing geo arbitrage, which is, are you able to earn a higher currency and live in a lower cost economy? You get financial freedom on the lower tiers, of course, right? But there is a level of financial freedom when you're getting paid in US dollars, but you're living in a lower cost economy where now, $1,500 US dollars at a bare minimum is taking care of all of your bills and you're living a good life. There is a level of financial freedom that you get there because now you're no longer stressed. All of your bills are paid and now you have money. You have additional money to save. You have money to travel. And that's just off of $1,500 US, let alone when you're making more money than that. So being a digital entrepreneur allows me to have location freedom, where now you could live wherever you want. It has time freedom because you're no longer punching the clock. You work based off of the value that you provide to entities and you create your own schedule. And then you have the financial freedom where you're not stressing about your bills because you're earning a higher currency, and where you live, your dollar is going a lot further. So all of your bills are taken care of. and you now can save money, you can invest your money, and you have money to really make good decisions, and you're not in survivor mode. Now, I've been blessed that I have not been in survivor mode for some years now. I think the last time I've even felt like I was in survivor mode might have been 2017, 2018, give or take around there. 2017, 2018 was the last time I felt like I was in survivor mode. Since then, I haven't felt like I've been good. I ain't rich, but I've been making enough money where I'm not stressed about anything, right? Where I'm good, my kids are good, so I'm not stressed about anything. That's been the last time I've been in survivor mode. So now this is just the next level, right? Like I said, as I approach my 38th birthday and I reflect on what being a digipreneur means to me, and it means location freedom, time freedom, financial freedom, and I'm really able to lean into all of those aspects, it feels good to me to be a digipreneur. So it's not a company, it's not just a brand, it is a lifestyle that I'm leaning into. And this next iteration of Keron Rose and my journey moving forward really allows me to lean into that. And when I lean into that, if I'm feeling it, like if I feel happy and content, and I feel like, hey, I'm about to step into the best version of myself and my life, then it's going to translate in every single thing that I touch, the content I put out there, the work that I do, and the people that I work with. It's going to be felt. So I'm excited for that. And then finally, because we're already at the 52-minute mark, finally, leaving Trinidad is just going to allow me to tap into more opportunities. Because the world is full of opportunities. And when you only live in one country, you limit your opportunities. A lot of people think that they can't move because they have kids or they have young kids. It's a lot easier to move with younger kids than it is to move with teens. The opportunities, the exposure to different cultures, different ways of life, that does more educating for kids, especially younger kids, than for anybody. Kids, younger kids, it's easier for them to adapt than older kids. I already told my 16-year-old daughter, I'm like, girl, you gotta come and spend some time in Thailand. And the first thing she's thinking about is her friends and the life that, she's been building back in Toronto. And she's like, a month is a long time. I'm like, I hear you, but you're not going to fully appreciate it until, you're in your 20s and you're like, damn, I was able to spend time in Trinidad. I was able to spend some time in Colombia. I was able to spend some time in Thailand. I was able to spend some time in Japan. Like, those are the things that truly help you grow and be more robust and be more, I don't want to just say employable, but you're more employable when you have been more traveled and you've been more exposed, but you get more out of life. And some of the best people in the world have been exposed to multiple countries. They've traveled, and not just travel to go on resorts or travel to just go and party, but some of the best people, the most well-rounded people are the ones that have been exposed to multiple countries, have stayed in different places for extended periods of time. I used to always be in awe when I'd be working with people and they're like, yo, this is their sixth country you've lived in. I'm like, how is that even possible to live in 6 different countries? And then when they talk about, they lived here as a kid because their parents moved around. They lived here, they lived here, they lived here. And then as adults, they caught themselves moving to different countries because, it's been ingrained in them as they were younger. And they can, and they're like, when back in the old days when sailors would go out to sea and come back months, years later and tell you all about their travels. You're just sitting there with your popcorn eating up everything that they've talked about. And you're like, wow, you've lived in Sri Lanka, you've lived in Australia, you've lived in Japan, now you're living in Canada, and you're like, God damn, how are you able to do all of these things? And they've just been exposed to so much, and they're able to just navigate the world a lot better and be more empathetic to people because they've seen the highest of highs, they've seen the lowest of lows, right? So the opportunities of living in multiple countries, I'm excited to be able to say, man, Thailand is going to be my third country. Most people never leave their home country, never spend significant time outside of their home city, never spend significant time out of their home country, never even go across to a different province or a different state. Or if you're in the Caribbean, go and live in a different island. So I'm excited for the new opportunities that a new country is going to bring, a new region is going to bring. I'm excited. I haven't been this excited since I moved to the Caribbean. And then at that point, when I moved, I was really only focused on partying. But I got really excited when I started to figure myself out and I started to build my own thing, and I realized the opportunities, not just in in Trinidad and Tobago, but across the Caribbean region. I got excited. I'm still excited, but now I'm excited to be poured back into and to really expose myself to new opportunities, to new ways of life, to new technology, to just, build my own self up and just be poured back into and just start having fun again, right? Just start having fun again. And I know once I start having fun again, and I'm one of those people where I'm annoying. The more that I learn is the more that I want to share. And some of the people closest to me who are not interested in half the things I'm interested in, and I just start to rinse their ears about, everything that I've learned, everything that I've seen. The people that appreciate it are you guys, the guys who choose to follow me, who choose to subscribe to my content. You guys are the real winners whenever I learn, and I'm always sharing. The people closest to me who are like, I don't give a damn about none of that. But you know what? Rinse our ears out anyway. So I'm excited, man. But yeah, this is I wanted to just, come on here and get the episode out about, why I've decided to leave Trinidad. So we've spoken about why Thailand, but now I wanted to talk about why I've decided to leave Trinidad and Tobago. Some of the problems are negative. Yes, I understand that. Trinidad and Tobago is a beautiful place. Right now, I feel like it's a great place to live, but to live here, I feel like Trinidad and Tobago is a great place to vacation. I feel like right now to live here requires a lot of sacrifices, requires a lot of, figuring out how to navigate a lot of the problems that we have. And the people who are able to navigate the challenges that we have are winning, and they're winning in a big way, but that's the 1%. That's the 0.5%. The majority, the masses, have not figured out how to navigate Trinidad and Tobago, and it's become a challenge for them. And so, yeah, that's it for me on today's episode. I may be able to squeeze one more episode in because I am going to be migrating early September, but like I said, I am selling all of my equipment, so my iMac, my Rodecaster Pro, a lot of my equipment has been sold. I have equipment that's coming in, so even though I'm selling my current Rodecaster Pro, I have already purchased the Rodecaster Duo, which is an upgraded podcast studio. It's smaller than my Rodecaster Pro. I also have my Rodecaster Streamer X, but that's a very small system, and that's more for when I'm traveling on the go. So I have equipment where I can probably eke out another podcast, but as I'm starting to, pack up my studio and whatnot, I'm really gonna figure out if I can get another episode in before I actually leave. But I will be looking to leave early September. I just need to plan which flight. So that's really the next step. I also have the destination Thai visa that is, I want to say 98% completion. I have one more document that currently is with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that's getting certified for international use that I have to upload to the Thai visa website to then get approved or upload to them so that my 5-year destination Thai visa could then be approved. And once I get approved for the visa, that should happen this week. Once I get approved for the visa, once I book my flights, all of that I should be out of here by early September. So I have some things that I'm doing to kind of just tie up down here. So again, if you don't hear me on the podcast, you're going to see me on all of the other channels because I'm still going to do radio, still doing TV, because these are all things I could do remotely just from my laptop. You'll still see me on social media shooting content because I can do that just from my phone. But the podcast requires my studio setup to be able to execute it the way that I want to. So that's why sometimes there has been, over the past year, especially when I was traveling and I did not have a mobile setup, that's why the podcast always had to compromise, is because I do everything from the studio. So, nonetheless, that is it from me today, folks. Don't forget, you could follow me on all social media channels at KeronRosc across all social media channels. Don't forget, you can check out my KeronRose.com website to learn more about building your digital presence and monetizing your platforms. Check out the Digipreneur FM website to stay up to date on all the podcasts and keep up to date with everything happening podcast related. Check out, every single Tuesday on CNC3 at 7 a.m. I'm going on in a few minutes. 7 a.m., check me out on CNC3 for the Digipreneur segment. Every Fridays, 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. on Freedom 106.5 is the Digital World with me and Ricolia Phillip. Listen to us. You could tune in on if you're in Trinidad, just turn on the Freedom 106.5 radio station or go to the Freedom 106.5 website to watch the live stream. And yeah, I just want to thank all of you for, just joining me on the journey. It really has been fun. Again, shout outs to every one of you listening from all over the world and consuming the content, whether it be in passing or, religiously. Thank you. And I look forward to continue to serving you, to serving the Caribbean, and just bringing you all along for the journey of the Digipreneur. Thanks, and see you guys and gals in the next one. Take care.
You've been listening to the Digiboss, Keron Rose. We hope your notepad was filled after this episode. Make sure to like, rate, and review the show. The learning doesn't stop, folks. And to make sure you don't miss any gems from the Digiboss, go over and follow him on all social media platforms at Keron Rose. Folks, don't just sit there with a notepad. We need you to implement at least one thing into your business before the next episode. That's the only way your business levels up. Thanks for listening to Digipreneur FM. Now go be great.